Okay, so in today's video, we're going to be talking to Anoma, who is currently working as a data analyst at Bloomberg. She'll be sharing tips with us on how she was able to transition into data analytics. And this will be useful insights for people who are interested in, say, starting a career in data analytics, right? So, hi, Anoma. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Hi, Rhoda. Thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor. I am incredibly grateful that you reached out for me to be featured on your channel. My name is Anoma. I currently work for a fintech company here in London as a data analyst. I moved a year and a couple of months ago, sponsored by the company to come work for them. I am popularly known as the DJ of Women in Data Africa, but I'm also the founder of the community. I help women get into tech, but specifically data fields. Basically, I love to dance, but I don't know how to dance. I love to read. I love to watch anime. I love documentaries and movies based on true life events. So, yeah.
Okay, awesome stuff. So just to jump straight into it, right? So my first question to you is really surrounding how were you able to transition into data analytics? Because I know you studied HR in the University of Lagos. So what was that transition like for you? What resources did you use? Did you go to a boot camp? Like what was that process like?
Yeah, you're right. I studied human resources. I'm also chartered. So I got my CIVM when I think I was still in uni. I can't really remember. And when I started, the plan was to actually practice human resources, which is why I decided to go get my professional certification. But along the way in school, I just realized that, oh, maybe it wasn't as technical as I wanted it to be. And so in my penultimate year, which is year three, I had the opportunity to work with a lecturer. So they wanted me to go share questionnaires around campus for a project that they were working on, but I was too lazy to do that. So I kind of lied to them that I knew how to create a Google form to make it easy to collate surveys. And they're like, okay, you know what, go for it. So I went on YouTube to search for how to create Google Forms. And from there, because of the algorithm, I started getting recommended videos such as how to export your Excel from Google Form to Excel itself. And from there, I started getting more videos on Excel for data analytics and everything in between. So I feel like the algorithm sort of played it in my face that this might be what you're interested in. And that era was me binge watching a lot of YouTube productivity videos. So I was on YouTube a lot of the time, which is why I was able to like see those videos YouTube was recommending to me and watch them. So in my penultimate year, I made a decision to like start my career in theater, but I did not officially start until after my final year, which I think was 2021. And I remember one of the first things I did was to go on LinkedIn and search for data analyst. And I sort of like stalked their experience, their certifications, what they knew, the kind of skill sets that they had, and I wrote every single thing down and I sort of picked the skills that were consistent. And I was just like, okay, I'm going to learn these skills. And from there, I started learning, self learning via YouTube. Then I signed up for Utiva, the Power BI Bootcamp, and I really liked it. Yeah, I'm not great at visualization, but I liked the bootcamp. Then afterwards, I think I remember starting the 100 Days of Data on Twitter, and the founder of a bootcamp reached out to me that they wanted me to join their bootcamp for free, which I thought was kind of amazing because I was already self learning. So the bootcamp was just meant to cement most of the stuff that I knew. And it literally changed my life because the bootcamp was very essential to my career and my growth. Most of the stuff that I currently know, I'd say, is from that bootcamp. So yeah, that's how I kind of transitioned. The long story of how I transitioned.
Okay. All right. So how long do you think this process took you from when you started to take courses online or when you started to watch videos on YouTube up until when you thought that okay, now I want to start my job search for data analyst roles? How long do you think that period was?
I think I was very delusional in my journey. I remember 1 month in, I started applying for job roles. Like No kidding. I started applying.
Wow.
I was very delusional in like and very like delusional in ambitions with like what I want ambitious, yeah, with what I wanted. So I remember that I applied for this role and I got into the interview stage and I could not really answer most of the technical questions, but the person was very impressed. Like, you know what, it takes balls for you to like actually apply, knowing fully well that you're not qualified, and for that, like I'm going to applaud you, but I'm not going to give you the job, basically. So I started applying from the start, and I feel like it gave me application experience and interviewing experience in some way. But I got my first role in data, I think 1.5 years afterwards. Yeah, the timeline is a bit blurry, but I think I got my first role in data maybe 1 year, not 1.5 years, so maybe 1 year, 11 months each after I started learning. But these days, I tell people that once you are 60% qualified for an opening, just go for it because then it means that you have 40% room to learn on the job. If you're 100% qualified, you probably not learn anything, to be honest, because you already have all of the requirements, and you're 100% qualified. So yes, if I was to go back, I'd probably start applying when I was 60% qualified. But I liked that I did start applying before I was qualified because, like I said, it gave me some sort of experience with interviewing.
Okay. Awesome. So, what would you say your job search experience was like then? How were you able to demonstrate, say, your track record in data analytics when you said to apply for these opportunities?
I think for me it was it wasn't as hard and as difficult because what I had done was to start building the public at the early stage of my like learning. So building the public meaning that I was posting almost every day about what I'd learned, and I was also like sort of helping people like find resources, and I was posting all of this sort of mini content on Twitter. Then I started from Twitter, and I remember that people were finding my account and reaching out to me for questions, and I was sort of answering them. And there were all of these comments that I was answering, and I was like trying to be of help and support to the Twitter community, if that makes sense. And I think um, when I apply and like I used to put my Twitter on my CV, to be honest, because I just feel like, you know what, as a recruiter, if you click on my Twitter, you probably see like every single thing on my field is about data. So you probably see that, oh, this baby is actually passionate about this thing. Like she does this with so much passion and she's trying to help
Mm-hmm.
more people get into it. So I think that played a big
Mm-hmm.
role for my job search because I had people also reaching out to me that, oh, I saw this role, I'm recruiting for this role. If you're interested, let me know, apply. I didn't get most of them because I was incredibly unqualified, but I also liked that because I was building in public, I was getting all of this access to like job opportunities and everything in between. So I'd say building in public played a big role. And I'd also say having a GitHub profile where I had all of my projects on also played. I don't even know where, I think it was when I was randomly watching a YouTube video. So one thing I did at the early stage of my career was to follow so many tech creators on YouTube. So I just binge watch most of their videos when I was resting. And I think I remember somebody saying you should have a GitHub profile, sort of like portfolio, if you want to get a job in tech. And I remember that sort of helped me a lot because recruiters could see my codes, they could see what I'd worked on, they could see things that I was good at, they could ask me questions concerning my code. So it wasn't superficial. Our conversations were mostly them opening my GitHub and asking me questions based on the projects that I'd worked. So I'd say that was very instrumental in my job search because I just text like a recruiter and be like, oh yeah, this is my GitHub portfolio. Look at what I've done, let me know if like you might be interested in having a conversation with me about joining your team. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question, but like that is sort of what I think were
Yeah.
instrumental.
That actually answers the question, right? But I have a kind of like follow up question based on something you have mentioned. So you said that okay, it's very helpful for you as someone who is looking for a job opportunity in tech to have a GitHub profile, right? So what kind of projects would typically be in your portfolio as a data analyst?
Yeah, that's a good question. So people, okay, I'm going to split this into two. So GitHub usually houses like codes and like so many other fun things that you can potentially do with like your GitHub. So SQL projects, Arrow projects, and Python projects. Those were the projects that I had on my GitHub. Now, there's some people that actually go a step further to create like some sort of personalized portfolio website where they can also host like their visualization like skills. I'm not great at visualizing, so I really did not care to create like a portfolio website to add like my visualization projects because I didn't really want a role where I had been visualizing, if that makes sense. I wanted a very technical role where I'd be coding. Um, so yeah, so typically on your portfolio website, you have all of most of your like projects you've worked on and also your visualization. On GitHub, maybe there's now a way to add like your visualization projects, but I still haven't figured out a way to do that. So it's mostly your coding project, so SQL, Arrow, Python. If you know Java, like your Java projects, your C++, C Sharp, whatever you want can be on your GitHub profile.
Okay, awesome. So, as someone who is not a data analyst, right, I have a question as regards. So, would it do you then add the link to your GitHub profile on your CV, or do you just send it as like a separate thing entirely
So it's typically at the top of
on your CV?
yeah. So beside it, when you hyperlink your LinkedIn, you can also hyperlink your GitHub profile.
Okay, okay. Okay, that makes sense. So you had mentioned earlier on that you were able to get a job from Nigeria, right? With a fintech company in the UK. So where would you say that people can go to if they're looking to get job opportunities with visa sponsorship, or if they're just looking for remote roles really in data analytics? What websites can they go to in order to source those kind of opportunities?
This is a good question. I'll try to answer from the top of my brain without actually googling some of these websites. So for work sponsorship, that can be a bit dicey. I mean, you can stay on LinkedIn and find some of this. What happened during my case was people sent the link to me from their careers page. So if you have like a dream company you want to work for, you can create set alerts on some of those companies on their careers page. There are usually ways to do that. So for example, if your dream company is to work for Meta, you can go to their careers page and set some sort of alert where you'll be notified if such openings are available so you can quickly apply for them. Also, setting up alerts on LinkedIn does the trick. There are numerous websites, if I'm being honest, where you can find like work sponsored opportunity. But for remote opportunities, I'll say Fiverr, Fiverr is a good shout. Upwork is a good shout. Brain Trust, it's also a good shout. LinkedIn, again, it's also a good shout. I'd say Twitter nowadays because so many recruiters are actually posting more opportunities on Twitter. But then again, it depends on your algorithm. I see about 10 to 20 job openings on my feed every time I scroll on Twitter. I think it's because most of the people I follow are technical people or people in tech or people in data. And it has affected the way my algorithm suggests like other profiles or other people recruiting on my page. So I'd say yes, these are like great options if you want to find a remote job or a work sponsored opportunity.
So I know that you said that you've had a lot of experience interviewing and applying for data analyst roles, right? So what would you say that are the technical skills that recruiters look out for if they're looking to like hire a data analyst? So what are the key programming languages that are very, very important for you to know as a data analyst? Because there are some people who would want to go into data analytics, but they're not exactly sure where to start from or what programming languages they need to learn and stuff like that.
That's a good question, but I'd say it depends on the company and what they are looking for. If I'm being honest, most data matured companies like Amazon, Meta, Google, they usually have like their own in-house tech stack that they require you to have. So, for example, I think Amazon is big on AWS. Like, if you don't have certain AWS certifications because it's their in-house product, the probability that they will hire you is really low.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think it's the same for
Okay.
Google. I think Google is the owner of BigQuery. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But like most of these companies have their own in-house tech stack that they require you to have certifications on before applying to enable you get a job. So I don't think it's set in stone because I know people that work as data analysts and they don't know Python or SQL. They mostly just use Excel. I know people that work as data analysts and they never use Excel. They use mostly Python and SQL. I know people that only use R because I mean it's a statistical analysis tool. So I'd say it depends on the company, which is where your research comes into play. Like if you have a dream company or a dream industry you want to work in, go stalk people that are big in that industry on LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn is such an open book sort of, I don't know, underrated platform. Like I know it can be a bit toxic for people's mental health, but I believe you can get like the best from LinkedIn minus the toxicity that might be on there. So, for example, like I mentioned before, one of the first things I did when I started my career was to stalk people that were already doing so well in the industry and in the field. And I literally wrote down every single skills and certifications that they had or they've gotten. That is one thing you can do if your dream is to work with Google. Go online and search for people that already work in Google or worked there in the past and see what skills they have, what skill sets they have, what kind of programming languages they know, what certifications that they've gotten, and like just start building your way through those lists, if that makes sense. So I'd say it varies across industries and across like companies, to be honest. It just depends on your research. Stone, Excel, SQL, Python. People don't like to learn Python, but I think it's good to have skill. If you know Python, like even if you don't use it, you know it for yourself. Yes. And one thing I've noticed about programming, when you know a language really well, you might easily be able to learn another language because usually the rules are the same. It's just the syntaxes might just change. For example, when it comes to joining two tables, I don't want to be very technical. When it comes to joining two tables across most languages, there is left and there is right join. Like these are like types of joining tables. Yeah. There is left and there is right join. It's the same in SQL, it's the same in Python, and I think R also. It's just that the syntaxes when it comes to actually joining these tables might be different, but it's still the same logic. It's still the same like rules, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I don't know if that answers the question.
That makes perfect sense, even though I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. But yeah, okay. So I think one of my final questions would be what is like a typical data analyst interview like? So I know usually you guys have like a technical interview, you have some sort of behavioral interview. I'm not exactly sure how it plays out. But can you just like give us like an idea of what to expect if you are interviewing for like a data analyst role?
I think it depends on the tech stack of the company. So if the company requires you to use Excel, Python, and SQL, you will most likely be tested on these technologies. So I think nowadays most organizations start with like an HR sort of interview just to get to know you. Then after the HR interview, you move on to like a technical test, sort of a rank test stage where they will potentially live test you on the skills that you claim to have and sort of put to test if you actually know what you are doing. Then after that, typically they have like another technical interview where like maybe they give you a case study, walk me through how you like solve this case study. How would you go about it? What's your end-to-end knowledge when it comes to this case study? And I think another stage that you would typically have, sorry, is a behavioral interview stage where companies would like to see if you're a culture fit with them, if you have the same values or you share the same values as they do. Yeah, I think this is like the generic interviewing application stages that people go through these days.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So I think my final question then would be, what has been your experience? Just like a general overview since you started your career in data analytics, right? And what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out for the first time that you think, oh, you should look out for this. I went through this while I was also trying to transition into data analytics, and just general tips like that.
I'd say maybe I can answer with like my experience and like some of the mistakes that I sort of made when I was starting my career. I feel like I did not extend as much grace to myself, and I did a lot of comparing with people that were already in the industry for a really long time. And that sort of affected me in a very toxic way. So there is this babe that I follow. I can't remember her name. She's a big shot in like the data field. I think she currently works for Google. And one day she posted a video about how when she started her career, she was so energetic, she was so happy. And then 2 years down the line, she's now in therapy because she is going through a lot, and like she put herself under so many unrealistic pressure, and so many things have happened in her career, and now she's going through therapy because of most of the decisions she made when she was starting her career. So I'd say extend grace to yourself as much as you can. Be kind to yourself.
Mhm.
Try as much as possible not to compare yourself with other people in the industry. You don't have to learn every single thing at the same time. It's good for you to learn some of these technologies one at a time, because then you will probably retain more information and it's more effective to actually learn one at a time instead of learning so many at a time. I'd also say work on projects at the start of your, like immediately you start learning. Don't wait till you're done learning Excel before you start working on projects. Actually spend time working on projects as you are learning. I feel like reinforcement learning is, I feel like it's a new concept when it comes to like Africa. I don't want to shade like our schools specifically or anything, but they were not big on reinforcement learning where like you just you just teach. It's very theoretical. There was no like practical part of it. And that can be very challenging because why am I learning so much theory that I won't use on the job when it's like the practical aspect of all of these things you're teaching that I will use on the job?
Mhm.
So I'd say take out time to work on projects, take our time to build your soft skills also, because we tend to focus on our technical skills and we neglect our soft skills. And most of the time when we are interviewing or when we are speaking to a recruiter, they check for these things. Like they want to see that you have great communication skills, that you are a problem solver, that you are a value added oriented person. Do you have all of these like ingrained soft skills in you to bring to the company rather than just your technical skills? There is something one of my friends at work, he has spent close to 20 years in the industry. There's something he always tells me that a non technical person can learn on the job. Yes, like a non-technical person can get the job and you will go through training and learn those technical skills. But when your communication skills suck and you're like you don't know how to work with people and everything in between, it is really hard for them to teach you how to speak, how to work with people. Some of those skills are really hard for you to learn. So it's very advisable that you spend time learning your soft skills as much as you're spending time learning your technical skills. So yeah, that's what I'll sort of advise anyone that's trying to get into tech.
Those are very insightful tips. Thank you. So for people who would be say learning about you for the first time, but they want to follow you on the internet, they want to see the kind of content you post and see maybe they can get some insights from following you as well. So where can we find you on the internet or on social media really?
It's my name. I'm a very, very simple girl. It's my full name, Moyolua Anoma, across every platform. So on LinkedIn, on TikTok, and on Twitter. Don't follow me on Instagram because it's a bit, Instagram is like my personal my personal
All
social
right.
media, so you don't have to. But it's still my name. It's still like my name on Instagram. But you might not find as much content on there than on Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok.
Yeah, I'm sure they would see enough content across LinkedIn, TikTok, and Twitter. Because I follow you on those pages, and I know that you put you churn out a lot of content. So I don't think anybody needs to then go follow you on Instagram. So thank you very much for taking out the time to have this conversation with me. I think it will be very beneficial for people who are looking to break into data analytics, right? So thank you very much once again, Anoma, and enjoy the rest of your
Thank you so much
day.
for having me. Have an amazing week.